What was stored on the ship? For a crew of 16, what kind of rations would you have to have? How many foodstuffs? What was the living quarters like? That's got to be difficult.
Right. Well, the living quarters certainly were constrained, there's no doubt about it. And when you would outfit a vessel like this for a voyage, you had to plan not for the best case scenario, but the worst case scenario. What happens if there's a storm or you're hindered in your travel? They had to have not only the bare necessities in terms of food and liquids to stay hydrated, they had to have spare wood, they had to have spare anchors, they had to have an extensive array of backups in terms of foodstuff and such like that. Now, most everybody has had a campfire at some point in their lives, and in fact that is how this ship prepared its food. You'd have a firebox in the galley lined with bricks and sand, and in that would be a small campfire that would be used to prepare the split peas and dried beans that would be found as the major portion of their diet. Along with the dried peas, you would have cheese, particularly on the Dutch ships, hardtack, that was a very dry baked bread with no leavening in it, but then also provisions of beef and salt cod, and those actually form the major component of the diet. And it was a fairly standardized fare. We know from historical records that the caloric intake from these sources of food ran typically about 3,500, sometimes as high as 4,000 calories per person per day. But it was completely lacking in the fruits and vegetables that you need for well-rounded nutrition. It wasn't such a big problem on an Atlantic voyage because the time of travel typically was less than that needed for the onset of scurvy. But on a voyage from Amsterdam to Indonesia, there was a high likelihood of a good proportion of the crew coming down with scurvy, which results from the lack of vitamin C. And it's a horribly debilitating disease.